Welcome to the Dark Ascent podcast, where we enter into the deepest secrets of black magic and the left-hand path. This is episode 7, Entering into Gnosis. To learn more about our work, please visit darkascent.org. Hi everyone, welcome to our podcast. I am Melektoth, and I am here with my wife, Elinara.
Hi.
And today we are talking about Gnosis.
Yes. Amazing topic.
Gnosis. So a few weeks ago, we talked about receiving answers from the universe for the unmanifest, right? And so that is sort of the first level of this. This is, how to get any answer from a spirit or from the universe or from whatever you want to get it from. How to get answers, basically. And this is deeper.
Yeah.
So here's what I notice. A lot of people do a lot of things because someone else said so.
So true. And it starts with parents going, because I said so.
Yeah, pretty much.
Didn't we always hate that?
And a lot of people believe a lot of things because someone says that that's true. I see a lot of law of attraction teachers who will basically parrot their favorite LOA teacher like Abraham or Seth. Seth not so much anymore, but you see that sometimes. Or what's his name? I might be butchering his name, but Neville Goddard. Or any of these other traditional teachers that someone else will follow in their footsteps, and they'll use the same terminology and they'll believe the same things, and they'll basically teach exactly what that person taught. And the problem with that is that they're not extending that knowledge, and that knowledge isn't really theirs. They're just believing it. So it becomes a religion. It becomes a religion of, Abraham Hicks, or a religion of Neville Goddard, or a religion of Napoleon Hill, or a religion of The Secret, or whatever. But it becomes a religion because a religion is when you believe something without personal gnosis, I'll define that in a minute, that verifies that it's true.
Yeah, and I've noticed that with especially LOA circles and even the New Age community in general, how, they're trying to leave their religion, Christianity or whatever. Right. But they're creating a new one. They're
exactly. Yeah.
They're either, trapped in this New Age stuff, which, other people are saying, and they all say the same thing, I swear.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And it's like they're trading one religion for another, and they see the New Age as freedom and blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. But is it really freedom? Sort of, but it turns into a religion.
Right, it's usually just trading one set of beliefs for another one.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit freer, which is nice, but you're still just blindly believing something. So, blindly believing anything isn't going to advance your own spirituality, and there will always be a step. So in knowledge, in spiritual growth, there will always be a step where for a while you do blindly believe something because you need a starting point.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that at first. You can't run before you walk.
Right. But if you stay there, that's the problem. And people stay there for years, for decades sometimes. There are people teaching, like, a good example that just came to mind is A Course in Miracles.
Oh, God.
Lots of people teach A Course in Miracles, which I have no problem. I personally don't resonate with it. But, okay, if you believe that, that's fine. That's your thing. But that was the personal gnosis of one person who actually ended up hating it by the end of her life, by the way.
She hated it, and a lot of the stuff she said wasn't even true.
Yeah, she hated it. She said, I regret writing that. That was the worst thing ever. But a lot of people believe in it, and that's fine. But if you just take her word for it, or the word of the supposed Jesus who supposedly channeled, it's another religion.
Yep.
It's just another religion.
Yep, exactly.
And so that's not going to get you anywhere. That's just not going to work. So again, that's the first step, and that's fine. You take on a certain belief that resonates with you. When I'm sitting here talking to you, when either of us are sitting here talking to you, there's some extent of, you have to believe, you don't have to, but, if you want to go deeper into this, you sort of have to take our word for it for a while. So there's a little bit of having to take our word for things in this podcast if you're wanting to go deeper, but I don't want it to stay that way.
And that's kind of even where I am, and I've been on a personal journey for a long time.
Oh, sure.
For me, I have to be like that, but like the thing is, it all makes sense to me, so it's okay.
Yeah.
But I think, eventually you'll come to your own truth.
Absolutely, yeah. So that was me. So when I first got into black magic, there was a certain black magician that I followed. And, I believed everything he said, and I read all his books, and I got some of his courses, and I even got coaching with him, and he was, he's really good. I like him. And
he really got you started.
He got me started, and, I adopted a lot of his own concepts just as is, into my own system. And that's, how I start. And I've been doing this for years and years and years in different systems. And I will do that. I will kind of adopt it as is 100% for a while. And then I will sort of morph, just very naturally, morph it into my own thing.
Yeah.
Because I start to have my own experiences. I start to have my own personal gnosis. And so that takes me on a different path. And, all my life, I've noticed this pattern. I swear I've received messages from psychics before that there's a being around me that it's really hard for me to get readings. There's a lot of psychics will try to give me a reading. And either if they're not very good, they'll totally be wrong. Or if they are especially good, they will say, you have a being around you that won't let me access a lot about you. I can get some things, but if I try to go any deeper, he blocks me. Oh, okay. And so there seems to be this being around me that
I think I know who it is.
And, and I now think that, because I've recently done a lot of work with Lucifer. Is that who you think? Yeah.
But not just because he's the head demon, though.
No, and I've heard that when you work with a demon, this is a little off topic, but when you work with a demon, that in a sense they've always been there for you. It just took you a while to actually get into contact with them because they're timeless. So they knew you were going to contact them. And so they were watching you and probably being with you and working in your life since you were born, maybe before. That sounds a little creepy, but I see it in my life when I look back. But for me, who else could it be? That's the being I work with, and
he's a particularly strong.
He is.
Being.
And so if you're gonna have a being block a psychic, I mean, literally, I saw I wouldn't call it like a celebrity psychic necessarily, but she charges a lot, and she's in
Vegas.
She's in Vegas,
right?
And yes, and charges a lot. Like,
or is she in Los Angeles?
I think Vegas, and basically sees some famous people, and her clientele are, pretty wealthy because she charges a lot. But I got 2 readings with her. The first one, she was totally wrong. The second one, a little more accurate, but still, I've never had, and I believe she's authentic because a lot of people have had readings with her and it's been like right on.
And she's so sweet. We met her in
person. She is. She's such a real, genuine person. So I believe she's real, but with me, again, I think Lucifer blocked her, but I've had a few psychics who have said, there's this being, and I don't know who it is, but he's blocking me. So anyway, but the reason I mention that is because he also is very particular about my spiritual path. And anytime I start following a certain teacher, okay, and that's fine. He'll accept that. That's okay. But if I start getting too deep where I start wanting to go to their workshops, or I want to get a training from them, or I want to do something any deeper than just studying them from a distance, he blocks my path almost every time.
Yep. Except for neurolinguistic programming.
Except for NLP. I got my NLP certification. And, that was about it. But, like, for example, some years ago, I was really into the work of Byron Katie. Oh. It's a system I love it. I still love the work and I use it. But I wanted to go. She has a 9-day school of the work where you can get, like, certified and you can become a work facilitator. And I wanted to do that. And totally blocked me 100%. Like,
You just didn't want the vegetarian meals.
Well, and it was very expensive and I couldn't afford it at the time. But, anytime I try to go to something like that, I get blocked. Another time, I was really into the release technique or the Sedona method, either one of those. And I wanted to, go to some of their in-person workshops. I did take one of their I took one of the retreats. I wanted to take one of the longer courses, but that never happened. I keep getting blocked. There are countless examples where I would try to, even Abraham Hicks, I would love to go to one of their workshops one of these days. Never
and I'm
happened.
secretly going, no.
I know Elinara's like, no, that's not going to happen.
No, not at all. They are so fake. Well, some of them.
But, it's like that, he just blocks me from that, I think, because, what happens is I will take on beliefs of that teacher for a while, like 100%.
And you're an all or nothing.
I am an all or nothing. But then I integrate. There's like a stage where I take it all on 100%, and then I integrate into what I already know, and I bring it into my own system. And so that's what happened with this black magician that I was following. And I do still follow, but I'm not as, 100% about everything he does. But, I've noticed that I've started to integrate that more into my own stuff, and I've started to kind of go in my own direction.
Kind of did a 180.
I've started being more open to inspiration from the spirits and the demons I work with. And a lot of that is something I'm not ready to discuss publicly quite yet, but, it's brand new, and it's still, black magic. Don't get me wrong. It's still the same stuff, but it's just
the philosophy,
different. How you do it. So, that's my pattern. And that's, I think, a lot of people's pattern is, but especially me, for some reason, I think Lucifer is picky about, that I received a message a long time ago. Hopefully this doesn't sound creepy, but actually from Jesus, actually.
Yes, this was what, 2011?
Yeah, I was doing a meditation, and I was more open to him at the time, and so he was the one that appeared, and actually I think this will sound nuts, but I'll talk about this another day, but I think there is a connection between Jesus and Lucifer.
I completely agree.
That's a long story, not appropriate for this podcast.
You're gonna put people in suspense now, though.
I know, but it's true, though.
It is true.
There's a connection. Anyway,
and even greater than that.
Yes, and he came to me and said, basically, this is again like 8 years ago, you are going to walk this path alone. And so what I've taken, it's been true. What I've taken that to mean is you're not going to follow an existing system. You're going to basically be the only one doing what you're doing and forge a path ahead and then lead others, on that path. But you're going to be the one to do it. You're not going to be a follower. You're not going to follow someone else. You're going to do your own thing. And that's always been true, and I have always said, I would have loved to have a teacher.
You weren't meant to.
But I just wasn't allowed to. I wasn't allowed to. It just, how it was.
And you went through some stuff.
Oh, yeah. So, anyway, that's another episode. But I think it's important, you take on the beliefs of some other system at first, but then you need to integrate that. You need to have your own gnosis. So what is gnosis? So gnosis comes from Greek, ancient Greek, and it means knowledge. But this isn't just knowledge like, 2 + 2 = 4.
I was just going to say that. I was literally just going to say.
Yeah, it's not factual knowledge like that. It's experienced knowledge. It's direct knowledge. It's knowledge like you have faith and then you have knowing because you've seen it.
Yep.
And you can't unsee it. They're just some things, and I have a number of these things. They're just some things you can't unsee in a good way. You just, no matter how long you live and how many, different journeys you go on, you will always believe these certain things to be true because you know it from personal experience.
Unless you bury them in your subconscious, which can happen.
Yeah.
Especially if a truth is particularly shocking.
Oh, sure.
You might deny it for a while, because I know that was me.
Oh, yeah. But it's always there.
Yep.
But that personal experience, the personal knowledge, where it's so deep it's beyond the mind, that is gnosis. Mm-hmm. So it was used a lot by the Gnostics. I mean, they named themselves after it because their goal was gnosis of the divine, the real, not the demiurge, again, another episode, but of the real source of things, And so gnosis can also mean, in that context, it can also mean a real personal experience with a spirit, where you're not just reading about them, but you're actually calling on them and having a real personal experience where you get to know them and you really connect with their essence. Like, that's me with Lucifer at this point, because, in fact, again, this sounds creepy, but I was talking to him yesterday. It was funny. I was getting into bed. Elinara and I go up to bed like an hour before we actually go to sleep because we love talking. Okay,
That's all we do.
as long as we've known each other, we loved to talk, and we would, when we were in school, we would stay up. Dorm hours would let you stay inside, up in the common areas till like 1 in the morning or so.
Sometimes
two. And we would regularly have to go outside and sit on the benches, even in the dead of winter, because we just couldn't stop talking. And so
we're still like that.
We're still like that. So after our long days, we go up and we talk. And sometimes it's 15 minutes. A lot of times it's an hour.
And sometimes we do it in the middle. Like, what was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Last night we had a conversation that went for like probably an hour or two.
Oh yeah, and it's like 4 in the morning. We went to bed at like 4:30.
No. I was talking about like evening. Like evening when we still had another one.
Yep, at the end of the day. Anyway, so we went up to bed, and I was climbing into bed, and Eleanor was coming back from the bathroom and getting into bed, and then she was talking to me. I'm like, oh, and I was kind of a little distracted, and I'm like, sorry, I was talking to Lucifer. I'm just like, okay, that sounds weird, just, yeah, sorry, I'm just talking to someone in my head, But that's the kind of relationship I have, because I don't need to do an all-out evocation to have that sort of experience. When you really get to know a spirit, you can open up communications where you can talk to them anytime. And I asked him, are you here? Because I was wanting to ask him a question. And he's like, I'm always here. Because we have that sort of connection where he's just sort of always around, because we do a lot of work together. And so that sort of thing is Gnosis, where you really get to connect with the essence of a being. You really get to know them on a deep level. And so that's Gnosis. So this sort of Gnosis, again, either direct personal experience or knowledge, or the same thing, but personal experience of connecting with the essence of a spirit, any kind of spirit, that's Gnosis. All right. And again, this is tied into getting answers from the universe, because it really is the same thing, but it goes a lot deeper. So getting answers from the universe could be, finding the solution to a problem, finding the answer to a question, something like that. That's good. That's one level. But Gnosis is sort of the next level, right? And so what I find happens, and this is not something where I can give a series of steps. Okay, do A, B, and C, and then you have Gnosis. Like, it just doesn't work like that. But I can give some suggestions, some observations, some, tips of how to go about it. And then you can practice that and hopefully get there. But it's not something where you can just do A, B, and C, and then you're there.
It's a journey.
Exactly.
Gnosis is meant to be a journey, not just, I want to experience it now.
Right, yeah, it's a journey. Yeah. It's a journey, and it's an ever-deepening journey.
It never stops, really.
Right. For example, I started working with Hades. I've mentioned this on the blog. And in 2016, he came to me. He was kind of the predecessor to Lucifer. And in 2016, I started working with him, and I had a very deep gnosis of him. But he would introduce me to these new concepts. So my gnosis, it was largely about how to manifest, how to use the law of attraction, and especially in the area of money. Money, as I think I've said, is sort of my expertise. I'm really good at manifesting money. And so he would show me things, and I would gain gnosis of that topic. And then, I would sort of, I think this is normal, I would reach sort of a plateau where I would come to a deep understanding of it, and then, okay, I'm there, and I can apply it. And then, nope, that's not it. And I would think, oh, that's it. Okay, I'm good. And then another infusion of knowledge would come, another deepening of gnosis, and another, burst of knowledge, and it would deepen, and I would go off on another, period of applying this knowledge to my life, and so on. It would take maybe a few weeks, a few months, and then it would settle back down. I'd reach another plateau. And that was sort of my pattern for about 2 years, until I finally started working with Lucifer. And so this is what happened. It got ever deeper, ever deeper, ever deeper. So Gnosis is not a one and done sort of thing. It's not just, yep, I got Gnosis, I'm done. You know?
It's like, I got religion.
It's something where you continuously deepen it and, gain more and more and more and more and more knowledge of that subject as you study it. And I don't think there's ever an end.
Nope.
It's sort of like we have this idea that comes from the East of enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
And this sort of idea of enlightenment is that once you reach enlightenment, that's like the end, right? That's it. But that's totally not true. I don't really believe in that concept because there's never an end to anything. So let's take the idea of Gnosis, which is a little similar. But once you have Gnosis of something, then, you're not just done. Okay, you've gained some Gnosis, but now it's going to go deeper. And then it's going to go deeper. And then it's going to go deeper. And then it's going to go deeper. So it's just never ending because the universe is infinite. Energy is infinite. Knowledge is infinite. So how could you ever reach the end of something infinite? Right? You can never just reach a point where it's like, yeah, that's the end of the journey. There is no end of the journey. It doesn't exist. Mm-mm. Even if, let's say you set a goal, okay? Because it's important to complete goals. That's good. But so you complete a goal. Okay, is that the end of the journey? No, now you're probably going to set another goal. It's like, and I know I rail against Abraham Hicks a lot, but they do have a really good example that I use sometimes. They say, let's say you're a painter or, some kind of artist, and you create a work of art, and people come and look at it. It's a really good work of art, and people come and look at it and say, oh, that's great. This is a really good work of art. What's next? No, I'm done. That was my one painting. That's it. No, what are you going to do next? No, that's it. I'm just going to look at this forever. Okay.
So what was the point of that?
Right? That's like Gnosis. Like you're not just, it's not the end of the journey. You're not just going to make that one painting or that one work of art and then like, I'm done. No, you're going to do more and you're going to grow as an artist. You're going to get better and better and better and you're going to explore new concepts. And there's never a point at which you're like, yeah, I've learned everything there is to learn about art. Have you ever heard an artist say that?
No.
No. There's no field of knowledge in the whole world where you can say, yeah, I've learned everything there is to learn. That's it. Never going to happen. Not if you're honest with yourself. And in fact, I think the better someone is, the more they know what they don't know. The more they know of their own ignorance. So that's why there's no end of the journey. You're always going to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So when we're talking about Gnosis, don't think this is something to aim for and then, I'm done. Right? This is just the beginning of the journey and then we'll go deeper. And you can have Gnosis in all sorts of things. I mean, you can have Gnosis of a spirit, you can have Gnosis of a certain topic, you can have Gnosis of the universe in general, or whatever. But it's always going to go deeper as long as you explore. And the reason for that is, this is a very simple thing. So this is one of those things that could be unpacked forever and ever, but we'd be here for like 3 days and I'd still be talking.
We'd probably be here for infinity.
Probably. Because I could just keep talking and keep getting inspired to new things and, like, yeah, so this is another thing about Gnosis and we're like 5 days in and that'd be a little ridiculous. So, but the reason that this happens is because basically the nature of energy, and I'm going to say this all the time, I may have talked about this before, but I don't remember. But the nature of energy is that the more you focus on it, the more it grows. Okay, there's a cliche little saying out there. Oh, that's what you resist persists. Right, that's the one I was thinking of. But when you resist something, you focus on it, and so you persist it. But what you focus on grows. In fact, I created a corny little saying a while ago that was like, wherever your focus goes, energy flows. Do you remember that? This is one of my courses. Anyway, it was a horrible little saying.
Yeah, it was. It is horrible.
I know it's horrible, but it's kind of catchy.
No, it's not.
It really kind of is.
No, it's not.
It's a little bit. Where your focus goes, energy flows. I like it. Come on. Everyone else agrees with me, so it's okay. So, wherever you focus your flowing energy, and that thing grows. And the more you focus on something, the more that thing grows. So this is magic in general, but let's say you're focused on a certain subject and you focus on it. And the more you focus on it, the more you learn about it. And the more you learn about it, the deeper your knowledge is about it. And the deeper your knowledge is about it, the more you focus on it because you're even more interested in it. And so if you take every subject, every possible field of expertise, this is anything in the world, but we're talking obviously specifically about magic here. But if you take any field of expertise or any area of knowledge, it's basically energy. Mm-hmm. It's a sort of field of consciousness.
It's very true.
Right? I've heard it. There's something out there called a morphic field, where it's sort of, this field contains all the knowledge on that one thing.
This is so cool.
Sort of a deeper thing, but, it's energy. And so, because it's energy, knowledge is energy too. Everything is energy. And so the more you focus on it, the more it starts to flow, the more it grows, and the bigger it gets, and the more it manifests in your life, the more it manifests in your own consciousness, the more you resonate with it, because whatever you focus on, you resonate, you attune yourself to. There's just all these principles at work. Again, it's frustrating because I can't possibly unpack them in one podcast, so it's like, where do you go? But you attune yourself to this energy as you focus on it, and so that's your Gnosis. So just remember, recently I mentioned that you can never, in our Quantum Uncertainty podcast, you can never focus on something without affecting it and it affecting you.
Yep.
And so when you focus on something, you attune yourself to it, you resonate with it, and because you resonate with it, that's really a definition of Gnosis, is attuning yourself to a field of energy. There you go. Gnosis is attuning yourself to a field of energy. And you do that through your focus. And that field of energy could be a being, e.g. a demon, or, some other spirit, or it could be some kind of knowledge. It could be, some sort of spiritual belief system or some sort of skill set. Anything, it doesn't matter. But you resonate with it, you attune yourself to it, and when you attune yourself to it, you can contain more of it. It starts to flow into your life.
I found that with massage therapy.
Yeah.
Because ever since I was 11 or 12, I've been interested in it, And it wasn't really a passing thing, so yeah. I had a lot of opportunities, I had mentors and stuff like that. And now it's like I know a lot about it, and I know I'm not certified, but I may as well be, because right, exactly. I know so much, and I'm not trying to be prideful. No. But I can fix almost anything. I mean, pretty much. Right. And obviously you can always learn more, but yep. I feel like that's a Gnosis for me.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah, because I just took to it, and exactly. Yes, I had guidance, but a lot of it was because of that guidance. It's like, oh, so it must be this, 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 and this then. Yep.
And that's me with, one thing is money.
Yep, I was just going to say that.
I've gotten really good at money and really passionate about money because to me it's such a life-changing thing. It's such a life-changing force. And money is energy. Mm-hmm. And I can get really deep about money. I mean, I taught a 6-week course last year about the law of attraction and money. And a lot of it, about half of it, was just practical steps. And I find that a lot of law of attraction people don't like practical steps, but that's sometimes necessary. We have to merge the magical and the practical.
Yeah, you do.
And so I taught the 6-week course, and it was about practical steps on top of law of attraction, practical steps to manifest money, to get better at money.
Because this world is a physical world.
It is.
So you can't do everything by just magic.
Exactly. And so, money is that sort of Gnosis sort of thing for me. And I've gotten really good at it. Mm-hmm. And obviously there's a lot more that could be known, I'm sure.
Well, that's with anything.
Right, but I've gotten really good at, investing and budgeting and saving and even magically speaking, knowing how to create more of it. how to move up to the next level of abundance, all this stuff about it that I studied for, roughly 2 years as I improved my own life, my own financial situation. So that's a sort of gnosis. And the second thing is, I would say, the law of attraction that I got really good at over about 3 years. And I would bring in these new systems, and then I would integrate them with my own experience. And I came up with stuff that was totally original, that I could find literally. I stopped reading law of attraction books after a while because all of them would just repeat the same old tired stuff. And these books were basically, you could say like Law of Attraction 101 or The Secret, that kind of thing. It just was so, just not even, half of it wasn't even true. So I just stopped. I mean, I can count on one hand the number of actually good books I've read on the Law of Attraction and actually good courses. There's exactly one course I've taken that is any good with the other way. Any good whatsoever. It's actually the first one I took. So I was lucky. The hypnosis one.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, I've referred a lot of people to it. This guy, Joe Tabanella, taught this course, Hypnosis and Law of Attraction, and it was like the best. It informed my practice from then on, and I still use a lot of those concepts. I've modified it a lot, but it got me started. And I can count on one hand the number of books, again, that I've read that are really good about the law of attraction. And, so I stopped after a while and I wouldn't, sometimes to kind of out of desperation or even just to entertain myself, I would look on Google about a law of attraction concept I was struggling with, that I was trying to go deeper on, because this is the thing with Gnosis, as you struggle sometimes to get to the next level. Like when you're getting there, it's not just a wave of inspiration. That can happen at the end, but as you're working on getting there, you're sort of struggling with it. And so I would be struggling with a concept, and I would look up what I was trying to figure out, and I would get 6 ways to visualize and get what you want. I'm like, no. And even worse, sometimes I get my own content.
Yep. That was funny.
Like, oh, well, I've already written about this, not like where it already was. So it wasn't even the next level yet, but this is something I already wrote about. So I'm getting my own stuff, either my own stuff or absolutely useless. And look, I'm not trying to like brag and say I'm the best out there, but just, most law of attraction stuff out there is just, and I think you'll find this if you search for
shallow.
it, absolutely useless. I can't even watch The Secret because it's just too painful for me.
I've never seen it.
So I watched.
We should watch it just to entertain ourselves.
I can't. I tried to watch like 10 minutes of it, and I was like, oh, that's it. I'm done. And it's inspiring. If someone's coming to it just new to this stuff, it's good. It's inspiring. It's helpful. But it's sort of kindergarten.
Yeah.
Right. There's so much more. And it's sort of kindergarten, and so you don't want to stay there. But it's good when you're just starting out. But, so I got really good at the law of attraction to the point that I was on my own. Because literally no one else was teaching this stuff. Literally no one else.
There's what Jesus said there.
Exactly.
You were alone, and he was like, what the hell do I do now?
Right. Literally no one else was teaching the kind of stuff I was teaching. I found sometimes I would find a glimmer of it in a random place, like an article on money or an article on business, of all things, or investing. And I'd be like, hey, wait, this concept they just talked about, it's totally in a practical context, but it's actually kind of what I'm doing too in a spiritual context. It would be crazy. And I would tell you about that.
Yeah,
Elinara,
you would.
Like, oh, I just found this thing in this book that it was totally about money, but it was so good. And it was, it made me realize something about the law of attraction. And so that would happen. So like, either Lucifer, whoever was helping at the time, Hades I was working with at the time, but would slip in these little things in books, whatever I was reading. It was like a scavenger hunt. Or articles that I would find, but traditional law of attraction articles, nothing. No. And so
it's a bunch of fluff.
I was totally, and this will happen to you when you have enough gnosis, when you really go deep. I was at a point where I was just totally on my own. And in fact, I had a podcast, Create Your Own, or what was it called? Co-Create Your Life.
Yeah.
And I had one guest on that podcast, because this one guest was the only person that I could find that was like close to in some regards. And she was actually open to some of my ideas.
She was fascinating.
She was really awesome. But everyone else, like there was no one else I would have wanted to invite, because I disagreed with their stuff so much that it's like, why would I want to invite them on? And again, I don't mean to sound prideful there, but that will happen where you get really good at something and then no one else is in that field and where you are. And that will just happen because you're progressing. So this is Gnosis. This is what happens. And, with black magic, I'm not quite at, I'm really good at manifesting. I'm still sort of developing at black magic, obviously.
You're getting your Gnosis, though.
It's coming. So, and that's happening. So, but that's my path. This is Gnosis. So now, how do you get Gnosis? Right, that's the question of the day, isn't it? How do you get Gnosis? So here's what I want to say. So you have to start out, as I said, with taking someone's word for it. If you want to take my word for it, cool. I find, every popular teacher out there, as a quick aside, like, I have a lot of respect for Lester Levinson. Sorry to pull a random name out. Lester Levinson, the person who originally created the release technique and the Sedona method. Like, both of those methods stemmed from him.
Right.
And he was the super advanced person who was like probably worlds beyond even me at manifest. I mean, he could do things almost instantly. I mean, there's a story, he left everything behind in New York City, I think it was. He was rich. He had manifested like millions of dollars. Left everything behind, literally all his money, moved to Arizona, found a plot of land because he wanted to change, and just trusted the money would show up.
And it did.
Now, that is not something I could do today, but maybe one day.
You will.
And it did, and he started over. But he was very good at this stuff. And he said, don't believe me, don't take my word for it. His expression, take it for checking, that was his expression. And what did people do? People taught what he taught, People made it a religion. And you're wrong if you don't agree with him and whatever. And so, that's not what I want. And that I find that's common. Every teacher worth their salt will say, don't believe me. Take it for yourself, test it, use it, gain your own Gnosis. In some words, they won't use that word necessarily, but gain your own experience, your own personal experience with this. So that's what I'm saying is, okay, maybe at first you take what I'm saying and that sounds pretty reasonable. You have good reasons for it. Use your intellect and you say, that sounds rational. That sounds pretty reasonable. I can get on board with that. And maybe I'll look deeper into that. And so, listen to the podcast, maybe join the mailing list, or, we have the hint, hint, wink, wink, the Circle of Darkness newsletter. And so you learn more. Now, here's the cool thing. As you immerse yourself, again, everything's energy. And everything's sort of, I'm a big animism type of person. Animism is this belief, I hate to say belief because it's such a knowledge. Everything in the world has a spirit.
Oh, yeah.
House has a spirit, a room has a spirit, a tree has a spirit. Like, there are ancient peoples who were animistic, who believed everything had a spirit.
Yeah.
Knowledge, fields of knowledge have a spirit, have a sort of stream of consciousness. So, the way of black magic or law of attraction, according to Melektoth, has a certain energy or a spirit or a field of consciousness about it. Right? That sounds like even that's another podcast. Like, I need to,
you should write these down.
I should write these down. I should listen back and write these down. Like, yeah, that's a podcast. I got like 5 podcast ideas out of this. All those are spirits. Anyway, so, the way of black magic according to Melektoth is a field of knowledge, a field of consciousness, a spirit, a thought form that you can tune into. And the way you tune into it is just immersing yourself. So you read, and this is just, I'm just using myself as the obvious example. You can do this for anyone. So you read my stuff and you listen to the podcast and so on and so forth, and you immerse yourself in what I'm saying here and in the knowledge, and you put it into practice. And as you do so, because of, the observer effect, you can't do anything without affecting it and affecting you. You attune yourself to that field of energy. And as you do that, then you open yourself up to receive more of it. And now, as you receive more of it, because you're attuned to that energy, not only are you just receiving concepts, words are concepts, ideas are concepts, you're receiving concepts, but now you're starting to see, you start to have real personal experiences, you start to make connections, you start to have inspiration. Now, this might take a while, and you have to be open to that. And there's no exact way of doing it. You just, by immersing yourself in the energy of some concept, by thinking about it regularly, by struggling with it, by working with it, by trying it, you make your own connections. And this is why, like, being self-aware, self-awareness, meditation, whatever, all that kind of stuff is really important, because this is the only way to really open up to Gnosis. But you start to deepen your understanding. Oh, that's what he meant by that. And then you might do the same thing with another field of knowledge that's related and say, oh, well, he says that, this person says that. And this is what I did with the law of attraction. Okay, that teacher says this, that teacher says that. Both can't be true at once in the same way. There's this principle of non-contradiction in philosophy. Two opposite things can't be true in the same way at the same time. So you have to resolve that paradox. But that's what I did a lot of times. Like, okay, that teacher says this, that teacher says that. Both can't be right. What's the truth?
And I find that you kind of, you start to realize it, what the truth is. You kind of start to just, you realize it after a while.
Oh, yeah. And that's Gnosis. So,
yep.
And even if it is just with one teacher, it doesn't matter. But as you immerse yourself in the energy of these concepts, of this philosophy, of this practice, you begin to resonate with it energetically.
And you weed out the stuff that you're like, I don't think so.
Yeah, and you practice it. And, for a while you take their word for it, and then you just start to make connections. You start to feel inspired. And it might take a couple months sometimes. But you start to make your own connections. And you start to go in your own sort of direction. Now, a lot of, some of your stuff might be in the same line as that teacher, and some might not, right? But you're deepening your own knowledge and having your own personal experience. And so as you do that, you gain more knowledge, and for a while, like I said, it feels like you're struggling. Because you have these concepts, you're like, I just don't know the answer to this. So you use that method I talked about a while ago, getting answers from the universe, and you get the answer to these conundrums that you find yourself in. Is this true or is that true? Or how does this work? How exactly does this work? And at first, like I would read a book that would really resonate with me, and maybe I'd email the author and say, you said all this stuff. What about this? And I'd find kind of a little contradiction in their logic. What about this? And people do that to me all the time, and that's great. Yeah, helps me to clarify my own position,
I was going to say, do they ever get back to you?
Right, yeah, some do, some don't. And if they get upset at you and say, how dare you question my, whatever, blah, 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 or they just might get defensive, they're not a good teacher. Ignore them. But usually they'll come back and they'll explain their way of thinking, and you'll either accept it or not. There's no religion in black magic. There's no religion in any of this stuff. No. So, you say, yeah, they said that. Okay, that sounds reasonable. Or no, I think maybe it's this way. And, the guy that I took that first course from, Joe Tabanella was his name. And he was, oh my God, amazing. Like, I emailed him, I don't know how many times.
He's talked to you on the phone.
One day I emailed him, and he's like, let me call you on the phone. This is a lot easier to talk about on the phone.
He did that a couple times.
And I would, as I would study other, because he liked Abraham Hicks a lot. And so I said, but Abraham says this, so what do you say about that? And, and he would say something. And so I struggled with his material a lot and integrating with other things, because even though he didn't see it, to me, it contradicted some things. And so I would talk to him. In the end, some stuff I adopted. I mean, his material still influences my work. Mm-hmm. It looks nothing like his work, but it's still influenced by his work. Mm-hmm. And so, I struggled with it a lot. I emailed him a lot, and he got back to me. He was amazing about that. And a lot of his explanations I accepted, and a lot I didn't. So this is the process of gaining Gnosis. This is, you just go deeper, and you go deeper, and you just naturally find yourself making new connections and growing in your knowledge and understanding of a topic, and just gaining deeper understanding of how it all works. So not too much can be said about that, except, again, you'll have this period of struggle, and then you'll have, what I find is one day something clicks.
Yep.
You have this wave of inspiration, like, that sort of the classical eureka moment.
Yeah.
And you get it. And it changes everything. And then you apply it for a while, and you live that new knowledge. And you know it so deeply, no one can tell you it's wrong, even if it disagrees with someone else's gnosis. And how could that work? It just does, because it just...
Everyone is at a different level.
Everyone understands things in a different way.
Yep.
Everyone approaches life a little bit differently. It's just a little different. So don't get self-conscious if your gnosis is, a little different from someone else's, right? So, and that doesn't mean you can't get along with that person or you can't share knowledge, but, you're going to go deeper. So you'll live that new knowledge for a while, and then you'll struggle with a new concept. Something, the next level will start to present itself, because as you're focusing on it, it's growing in your life. That spirit, that field of knowledge, the animistic spirit, so to speak, is growing in your life, is manifesting. This is a manifestation. And then you struggle with a new concept. You have another aha moment, another wave of inspiration, and you're at another level. Mm-hmm. And then you repeat the same cycle over again. And you keep doing it, and you keep doing it, and you keep doing it. And you might do it for years. Hopefully, if you keep going down this path, you're going to do it for years.
The rest of your life. Really.
Yeah. Why would you ever settle? And that's the case for any field of expertise. Like, that's how I feel about money, abundance. That's how I feel about magic and the law of attraction. Those are like my two areas. You're going to have a couple areas where you care so much about that your gnosis will go ever deeper, right? That you might have, let's say, a being you work with that you have a very basic gnosis of, and that's as far as it's going to go. And you'll have probably one being, and in a future podcast pretty soon here, I'm going to talk about working with certain beings that'll actually fit pretty well into this subject. So you'll have one being, and we call them that your patron spirit, that you resonate with so much. You get such deep gnosis of, you'll work with them forever. For me, it started... I didn't really get my first... I had some spirit guides and stuff when I was younger. But I started working with Jesus for a while, years ago. And I get messages. I had Jesus messages. I don't think anyone here has been around my work long enough.
2011, no.
Yeah, to remember Jesus messages. But every day I would write Jesus message. And it was, some deep stuff. It was like I made huge spiritual progress then.
It was very popular too.
And then he kind of handed me off, after a while, and I did my own thing. I sort of outgrew, I'm not saying I outgrew him, but what I could get from him, was at an end. And then I worked with Hades, and he worked with me for a while, and then he handed me off to Lucifer. And I just have this kind of, this feeling that I never really had with either Jesus or Hades. Like, this is it. Right. And I'll work with other beings, like, but Lucifer, I have the deepest connection with. Like, when I was working with Hades, it wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to work with him forever. He's awesome. Like, I would be really thankful for what he did for me, but it wasn't this deep connection.
And he'll always have a special place in
your
heart.
He will, yeah. And I still talk to him sometimes, but Lucifer, I mean, heck, I got his sigil tattooed on my body. Like, that's that kind of thing. So you just get to that being that is the one, your patron, the one that is your primary being, spirit in your life. And you'll always grow deeper with them. And I haven't had any, inspiration to work with Jesus for how many years? At least 4 or 5 years? Maybe longer?
No, longer. Since before 2018.
6 years?
Or since before 2013.
Yeah, so maybe 6-7 years. Hades, I stopped working with... He kind of slowly phased out of my life. And then, now this is Lucifer. And this is, again, I just have this innate feeling that this is it. So, anyway, the point is, the spirit's sort of the same thing, where you'll get some of them you'll have a basic gnosis of. You'll get to know them and just enough to work with them a bit. And at least one of them, you're just going to go so deep that you'll just never stop. Because your goals and that spirit's goals align.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucifer is about bringing knowledge, Gnosis, knowledge and reason to people, so our goals align. And so we work together. So he's like pretty much the archetype of a teacher for me. I think so.
Oh, yeah.
So you'll have that, though. You'll find that spirit eventually. I'll talk about that in a future podcast. Maybe the next one, we'll see. But you'll have that, and then you'll have one or two areas of knowledge that you're so passionate about that your Gnosis will never end. And some that you'll go a bit deep, just enough to, gain some basic expertise in, and then that'll be enough. But you'll have one or two areas of knowledge, maybe magic, maybe not. But we'll just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. But, the more you focus on something, the deeper that Gnosis goes. There's no end. There's just no end. Right? And that's it. I mean, we can go on forever. I literally could probably go on for another 3 hours, but, this is long enough, but that's it. And the great thing, one last point before we end. Well, the great thing about Gnosis and about a group of people working towards the same end is that they can share their Gnosis. So here's the thing, we have, I'm going to plug it again, the Circle of Darkness. By the way, if you want to check that out, it's darkascent.org/circle. The Circle of Darkness is a group that has, for me, two purposes. Number one, to act as a way for you to go deeper. It's like, okay, this is on the surface, and we go pretty deep here too. But this is on the surface, and the podcast and the mailing list, and there's so much I share here. And you might think, I really want to go deeper. And the Circle of Darkness is that, because you have the newsletter that is material that I just have never written publicly. And then you also have, the community of everyone in the Circle of Darkness that can communicate. So the first purpose is for knowledge, for you to gain knowledge, deeper factual knowledge of black magic, and to be able to begin to immerse yourself in this, to begin your process of Gnosis. And the second purpose for me is the sharing of Gnosis. And my hope and my goal is that eventually those who join it will become adept black magicians in their own right, have their own Gnosis, and it may or may not agree with me, and it doesn't matter. And they will share it. So I see myself as a facilitator of that, not some I'm the one that everyone has to believe the same things I believe and experience the same things I experience. No, you can't have that. It's not how I see it at all. It's, to me, a sharing of Gnosis. And when you share Gnosis with someone else, you help to deepen theirs as well. You might say just the right thing that makes something click for them. And so, in the community for the Circle of Darkness, and people will tell you this who are already in it, I'm real and I'm raw. I share my struggles. I share my personal experiences, what I'm dealing with, my goals are, some of them. I mean, some of my goals I won't even share with Elinara. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But, general goals I have, general things, desires I have. I'm not in teacher mode like I am necessarily here. And sometimes I'll post things that is a sharing of knowledge, but I'm not in teacher mode so much as I am in public, because I want people to be able to share their own and not feel like, oh, what if it disagrees with him? No, that doesn't matter. So it's a sharing of Gnosis. And that, I think, is super powerful, because, then the whole group, again, animism, the whole group has its own sort of field of knowledge. And so when I share, you share, Elinara shares, someone else shares, then the whole thing, the whole field of consciousness of the Circle of Darkness newsletter goes deeper, advances, takes on all that combined knowledge and experience. And then the next people who join it inherits all that, right? So it's just this really powerful thing. And that's why, for me, it's so powerful to be able to share your Gnosis. You have to do it with people you trust. If you share it with someone and like, ha ha ha, that's funny, you have to do it with people you trust.
And
right?
people that will believe you.
People who, you don't just do this with normal, everyday, mundane people. Like, yeah, today I learned that, whatever. And they're like,
Yeah, they're muggles.
Yeah, you don't share with muggles. But with people you trust that will believe you. And that's a powerful thing, It's a rare thing too, unfortunately. Yeah. But when you find that, that's powerful. So that's what I want the Circle of Darkness to be. So, I have spoken enough.
You have spoken.
I have spoken. This will spawn like 10 other podcasts, I promise. So this is like the beginning. I mean, when I speak on a subject, this is Gnosis too, because when I speak on a subject, energy flows. And it's like, oh, I can go in that direction or that direction or that direction. And then just there's this whole thing that builds up. But I think that's a good introduction to Gnosis. And so I will leave you there. But I hope that helps. Again, if you're interested in the Circle of Darkness newsletter, you can go to darkascent.org/circle and begin your own journey of Gnosis there.
Yes.
So if you'd like to check out the show notes or leave a comment, we always love hearing from our listeners. You can go to darkascent.org/DA007. We are here every Friday for another episode of the Dark Ascent podcast, so please join us next Friday as well. And I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. So I hope that everyone has a great week.
Have a great week.
Bye, everyone.